Hello everyone. Today we have Vandita with us. She has been actively participating in our community platform that O Guild One and has been doing various demo sessions there. Today we are discussing something around product management, product ownership space. So let's see what all queries she has. I will share my view. She may have her view, and let's see what we discovered together on this particular space. So yes, Vandita, maybe you want to give a brief intro and then we get started with your questions.
Thank you, Saket, for the opportunity. So as we've discussed before starting a session, that I've been working as a product owner in the product owner capacity for O Guild, and I've picked up some knowledge, but I'm bringing forth my previous business analysis experience and a little bit of project coordination and some project management experience into the role. But going forward as in this session, I'd like to, address with you what are the issues or what are the gaps I might see between my existing experience and a product manager role. So to begin with, I want to find out more from you. Who is a product manager? What does he do?
So what I believe is, again, there could be, it all depends upon the framework and the way organizations are designed. But the whole idea is there is an amount of work which needs to be done in order to identify what should develop and what should be prioritized so that we can deliver business value. So that's the work has to be done. Now, if you have a large setup, then you may have two separate people doing some part of this work. Yeah. So somebody might be focusing more on directional issue, strategic issue, and the another person might be focusing more on execution, working day to day with the developers and providing acceptance to it. If you have a relatively small setup or you have a mature team, there is a possibility of one person doing both the job. Yeah. So now this one person can be called anything. In some cases, this one person is called product owner. In some cases, it is called product manager. Now, whenever somebody asks, I'm doing product management or product ownership, or there is a job related to product owner or product management, we need to understand what is the description of the job, what the person is doing. Because there are a variety of things which can be done into product management. What are the areas the one person is focusing on that defines that particular role or a thing. So say if the people are working in a Scrum context and there is a possibility somebody may be labeled as a product owner, might be doing strategic as well as the team level work, both in together. There is a possibility in that company also, there could be a strategic work is done by some set of stakeholders who are not recognized like anything, but this guy coordinate with those people and get the things done. So that's a coordination one, but there is someone responsible for finding out what has to be done. And in some large setup, you may have a designated people who are expected to do the marketing research, pricing, partnering, user persona understanding, identifying the target segment, or identifying the pricing model, and then helping and working with the second set of team to get the features done. So that's a whole spectrum of it. Now, many times we start with requirement. Somebody will ask, how do we start requirement? How do we work on it? And somebody will say, we will write the user story. Now, okay, this is a perfect way, but who is the user? And why do you care for that user? Who told you to care for that particular user only? Now, what is the business case behind that user? So even before you talk about user story, you need to figure out the desired user. Now, that desired user is a strategic portion. Say I am making the example which we have on our O Guild, that oh wow hotel or something. We write some stories, user stories, somebody can download from there as well. So before I say I want to make a site for helping people to book the hotels, I need to understand who are the target people, what kind of users I am focusing on before even I am thinking of should I give a feature to book a flight or not, or book a hotel or not. So if I am targeting the backpackers, my approach is different. If I'm targeting the business travelers, my approach is different. If I'm targeting the vacationers, my approach is different. If I'm targeting the big groups, who are coming on vacations and they want to have a bulk deals, my approach is different. So that part, usually many times there is a part of product, many times it is called product management part, or that part of work who will define what kind of a user we are focusing and why. Now, why do you want to focus on vacationers? You may say we have another holiday package, which is we are already running. We already understand the taste of vacationers. They keep asking us about the hotels, but we are unable to provide them. That's why we want to focus on vacationers. So now that's a starting point. And then, okay, what is the business case of it? How many number of vacationers we are thinking of booking? So this piece, which is usually the business part of piece, many times called a product management activity, can be done by the person who is having any label, and then getting things done on an incremental basis, putting the things on the site, observing customer behaviors, usage patterns, analyzing those usage patterns, and deciding what to be done next. Can be done as a product management, as a product ownership space as well.
Okay, so then I think the first question I would have before tackling any particular role is to figure out if there is a existing product owner in an organization that will help us streamline the understanding the actual responsibility of this guy, because it looks like it's a little bit of it could be a mix and match of a couple of things.
Yeah. So one can understand is maybe the boundary, your starting boundary and your ending boundary. So you can say that, okay, what is the layer I have to operate in? Now, in one place, the boundary could be that you need to start from market research, business case, and then you need to focus till the market start consuming it. That could be a one possible boundary. The another boundary is that we have a different people, different departments. They have their own research data. They have some expectations. You need to work with them to understand what exactly they need and then convert it into a product and features. So then it's a second level boundary where you are saying that there are business people who are involved and I need to work with them to move forward. So for example, you are working on retail banking website. So you may say we have a customer support department, we have a finance department, we have others, and they have a lot of ideas which they want to put into retail banking. So what you need to do is you need to work with those people and identify, prioritize, negotiate, and find out mechanism of prioritization and take it forward. So, but yeah, you probably don't own those requirements. The CRM related requirement is owned by CRM head, the finance related account is owned by someone else, but you are facilitating and integrating so that it can be given as a single priority for a development team. So that could be the second type of work which might be done by this kind of a product relationship guy. So you call him a product owner, product manager, sometime depend. Now, another thing you can find out is what framework they are using. If they are using these terms like product owner, product management, after getting influenced by skilled agile framework, then you get a clear idea. Then you understand that if they are using SAFe at some extent, then the product owner role is a team level role. That's why they are labeling it. If they are using not, and product management role is more like business level role, business stakeholder working role, and a strategy level role, where you are expected to find out the personas, features, and work with external stakeholders more rather than internal development team. So if they give a clue of a framework, then you get a clarity what possibly the difference between different roles.
So we know that it's an agile environment to begin with. Then I have two specific questions. One thing is, so say for example, an organization is having both the product owner and a product manager. Once again, could you tell me that one small difference that could exist between these two roles?
Yeah.
So you're saying that so if I can put it, what I've understood so far is the product manager is somebody who is doing all the strategizing and of the business side, but the product owner is someone who will actually gather those requirements to understand what the business is wanting from the product manager and then try and get those requirements to life.
Perfect. So that's a safe way of organizing these two activity. So again, it is just even in a scaled agile framework, it is not like a very separate box. It's not like there is a product management box and product owner box and things cannot overlap. There will be a good amount of overlap. It actually depends upon the culture and the skill of product manager as well as product owner. It's a collaborative effort. That's the whole thing. So both will have an overlapping area. There will be various meetings where both the people will be participating. That's the thing. Now, from a difference point of view, as you suggested, the product management is more working on high level of requirement, which they call features. And those high level of requirements are understood with the business people. And business people only understand those feature level languages, whereas a product owner in a safe word convert those high level requirement to a small piece of requirement, which they call it user story. And these small pieces can be developed in 2 weeks time, should have their own acceptance criteria, should get validated. So the product owner work closely with the development team to get those big features incrementally get developed on an iterative basis. So one feature may take few iterations to get done, but a user story will get done in a one iteration, and it has to be incremented more closely. So the product owner in a safe word is working with the user stories. There are many working on a day-to-day basis, clarifying the development team, what is expected, what is not expected. When the development team is done, they are kind of reviewing, accepting it, and they are also integrating the overall understanding once all the user stories are done, and then working with the product management to get it demonstrated and collected feedback from the stakeholder also. So they may participate into stakeholder feedback collection and all, depending upon the culture and the skill of people. But yeah, that's a primary focus. Product management in SAFE focus more on business requirement understanding, whereas a product owner focuses more on the ensuring the understanding of a business requirement get really implemented in the user stories incrementally. So they are more implementation oriented, alignment and implementation oriented. Yeah.
So in whatever you've just explained, if I remove SAFE out of it, and these guys are still existing, does anything change in terms of responsibilities and roles?
So see, the whole idea here is these roles has to be some reference point. So then the actually, even with the SAFE, exact role will depend upon the organization. How the organization defines their GDs, exactly it will come from there. There could be a one SAFE implementation where product management is expected to do a lot of work and product owners are only involved in getting things done. There could be other implementation where product owners are significantly involved in capturing requirement as well. And a framework perspective, both are okay. But still, framework gives us some boundaries and some understanding. But when you don't have a framework, then it is definitely left on the organization, because they have their own reference point. On the basis of that, they decide. So I think we have to be a little careful just converting the SAFE understanding into a generic space, without getting the details. So we understand what is the real meaning of it, but there is a high probability the SAFE understanding give us good starting point. So that's a good probability.
Okay, and then getting to now, if we can we get into the key competencies of a product manager? My first question is, when you talk about strategizing and strategies, what does the product manager do? Okay, I have an example to ask. During the current pandemic time, a lot of businesses and a lot of departments are going the digital way. They're digitizing and automating their current processes. So if we take that example of digitizing a particular process for an enterprise, or could be any business, what are the strategies that you could think of that a product manager could do?
Yeah. So say this whole solutioning of a digitization requires a strategic thinking and then executions. Both are needed. Now, the strategic thinking may talk about which are the particular flows we want to digitize. Yeah.
Okay.
Where the delays are, which are the segment we want to digitize, who are the respective sponsors or stakeholders whose work is getting impacted, and then understanding what are the needs and expectations of those people. So it is more about, if I use a business analysis language, it's all about coming up with a problem definition, solution alternatives. Yeah, it's more about need assessment space. Yeah, so you have a problem definition done, solution alternative, figure it out. Then you are checking the feasibility, the commercial feasibility, technical feasibility of that particular solution, and then probably coming up this probably a document called a business case. And then you may also identify some set of KPIs which will be used in order to find out how we are going to monitor our success related to this initiative. Yeah. So that will be the first level of understanding someone has to do. Now, if you are using a safe language, you can call it, it's a business epic, which product management along with the business people can write it. If you are using a generic thing, then you can say it's a need assessment activity, which is done before the project. And based on the need assessment, you may come up with a business case or a benefit realization plan. So product management will be primarily responsible for understanding this problem definition, the alternatives, and the business case related to it. Once that is done, then you get into the detailing of the solution. Yeah. So now the solutioning detailing can be done at a high level and low level, and it has to be done incrementally. So you may have a high level solutioning done by the product management. High level solutioning talks about maybe which modules to go first, which are the areas, which are the particular features to be developed for that particular module. The low level detailings could be what exactly app or a website has to be developed at a length. And getting the plan for upcoming iteration, what exactly will go into that particular iteration, and then getting things developed in that particular iteration. So that could be a low level detailing, which might be done by the product owner, if you are using that particular name here. And once that particular thing is done, say iteration is done, then we need to do an understanding of it, what we have learned from that particular doing. So taking the feedback, just giving a feedback and taking it is a one thing, putting something into the place and understanding the data uses pattern and other things. And based on this, that identifying how should we go forward, the roadmap of the product is again a high level job. So if I just talk about specific artifacts, you can say the need problem definition, the solution alternative exploration, identifying the business case, identifying the top level KPIs. If it is done in a product context, product vision and product roadmap, which will help this whole thing, is more like a product management job. So once you have a product vision, product roadmap in place, then elaborating the high level part of product roadmap, and then getting that thing executed with the help of multiple product owners, and then frequently also integrating the result which we are getting based on the iterative execution, and then changing the product roadmap, elaborating the product roadmap, and revalidating the business case is a product management job.
Okay, so Saket, can I say that, so when we talk about the, say for example, we know about the business case. The business case is saying that we want to digitize or automate the processes so as to give comfort for the people to conduct the business from their homes because of the COVID-19. Okay, the next part is, when we know the business case, now the second challenge for this guy would be to actually define we know the problem, we have a business case. Then, so can I say that the next thing would be to do a gap analysis between the current state and the desired future state? What are the steps that needs to be performed for us to go there? So that steps, that gap analysis should produce what kind of a document? Is it a roadmap? Can I say that at that point?
It could be a roadmap. It could be a roadmap. It could be a high level requirement understanding also, or you may just call a separate document like a solutioning document. You can say a solutioning document as well. So see, you need to identify a problem. Problem domain, you need to identify a vision, what is where you want to go, and then you need to find out various alternative paths to reach that particular place. So you have a place to go, you are somewhere, and you are identifying those alternative paths, and then you are creating a roadmap to reach to that. You take a particular path or a particular approach or a solution, and that's a product roadmap or a particular thing, and then you refine it based on learning iteratively. So you may have a top level roadmap to start with, and then you learn something every iteration, every PI, whatever frame you are using, and then you improve it. So that's the overall business analysis work. So that's the whole idea, product management and business analysis work. Now, depending upon what organization wants to call it, if this whole thing is done in a project mode, this person may be called business analyst only, and he might be doing all this work, and he might be working with some key stakeholders. Those stakeholders might be called business heads, rather than called product management or something. You may have a business head, or you may be having sponsor who might be doing this job, sponsor who might be working closely with the business case space, and then you have a business analyst taking it forward. In a traditional project, some part of this job is done by a project manager also. The project manager along with business analyst may do this particular thing. Now, if the organization is more organized in a product mode where they are not running project charter and all, they have a continuous flow of work happening, then they will have a more product oriented terminologies. But yeah, some amount of work will be overlapped. Yeah, but there could be something which project reporting and other things may not happen, but product reporting will happen. So you may have a product owner or a product management roles coming in overall.
Okay, and once we have defined that problem statement, and then we have, a roadmap for our product that we are going to manage, what are the different departments that this guy is going to start talking? I understand that there is the whole business analysis team that is going to work on the requirements and, enhancing those requirements and breaking them down from that user stories to tasks, getting the user acceptance criteria ready. And then,
so irrespective of the way of working, the major issue or the major challenge one has to deal with is having a set of identified stakeholders. And it can go wrong in any methodology. Yeah, you may use waterfall, you may use agile, but you may miss identifying the appropriate stakeholders, and which may create a problem for you. So the idea here is, when I'm identifying the need, I am understanding what the problem is. Who can tell me the problem? Yeah. So now there is no problem which is just lying and you can just pick up and say, oh, this is the problem. There will be different stakeholders will have a different problem. Somebody will say that since people can't go come to the office, so they should be able to do the work from home. Somebody will say that we want to reduce our cost by 20%. Somebody will say that since the paperwork takes this much time, we want to reduce the time by 20%. So what is the goal and what are the challenges related to the goal? Everybody have a different understanding of it. Somebody is more challenged about how do we validate the right person is doing the job. How do we reduce the frauds? Yeah, if we are doing everything online. So everybody will have a different perspective, and that's the job of the business analysis work. You may call it anything, where we need to understand what is the product overall, where the company is investing money and what they want to get out of it, and who are the stakeholders who can tell us what should be done. So you do a stakeholder identification, stakeholder analysis. That's a part of first things, because that only defines your key requirements, the key indicators, key personas who needs to be taken care, and then only the user story will come. That's a later stage. Yeah. But and these things may get edited also. It's not like that once created, these key requirement will always be fixed, but overall vision has to be created based on some set of stakeholders. Yeah.
So you're saying that it will be refined and it's a dynamic list that will keep changing.
Yeah. So say you identified something, then you had a demonstration, a quarterly review, maybe the management looked at it. They may like some part of it, but they may not like some part of it. And the part which they liked, they may say, oh, we want to replicate into 2 more departments. So you have a more stakeholders added. The part they are not liking says you are missing the point of security drastically. You better consult with these people also. So the new stakeholders get added. So you can say, okay, we missed security. Now we have a security department to deal with. We were good at doing this. Now we need to take care of 3 more departments to do it. So these things will keep changing. And that's the whole idea of working with the stakeholders on a regular basis.
So we can say that, so how do we, if I ask you what are the different set of stakeholders that this product manager is dealing with, I can say that it's the IT team, but IT team, again, it's very vague. I'll say the technical department.
So it depends upon, you can say that I may start with some stakeholder classification. That could be the starting point. And it could be depending upon the nature of work you are doing. In a simplest word, you will have the user representation. So you may have an end users, or sometimes you may have a representative of end users who understand the feeling of end users. So if I'm a government department, assuming the end users may not be the citizens, but who can understand what citizens need? So someone representing citizens' point of view, that's a one group. Then somebody might be presenting the compliance point of view. Somebody might be presenting the financial part of view, that what is the profit we want to make out of this whole initiative. So you may have such kind of a categorization. So many times organization may have these defined categorization. Sometimes they don't, then you may start with those categorization and then you reach to the people. And the development team is definitely needed ultimately. So you can understand there could be few categorization which are coming from problem domain, who understands the problem well. There will be few category who is need to be coming from a solutioning domain, who can solve this problem. So we need to identify the solutioning domain stakeholder and groups as well. And there could be third and fourth type of categorization who are more on compliance part, that okay, there is a problem, there is a solution, but we must adhere to some compliance while solving this. So we may have a compliance stakeholders who will ensure that. There could be a fourth type of stakeholders who says we are constrained stakeholder. We will say this is the only money we can give, this is the only time we can give, we need this by Christmas, we need this by next year. So they are constrained, like their priorities and constraint type of stakeholder. So we need to understand, okay, what are the possible players? We just roughly picked up 4. So the problem domain, the solution domain, the compliance domain, the constraint domain, or a priority space. And then we understand who are the player inside it. And that could be a good starting point to start with. Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. The other thing I'm thinking of is, while we were discussing all this, what are the different certifications that you can think of that iZenBridge is currently offering that would help anybody who's, in one of these roles, who's playing a business analyst or some kind of, IT role, or could be from the business side, would want to transition towards the product space? What are the different certifications that we have in order for us to understand this role better?
Yeah. So see, the basic thing which usually can help is a business analysis understanding. Like, okay, how do you take an interview? How do you look at a persona? How do you facilitate decision-making process? What are the possible way of really identifying the need, benchmarking and all those things? So what is a need identification part of it? So PMI has a PMI-PBA, which is a business analysis certification program, which works very well, especially if you are working in a project-oriented space, of doing business analysis, and it has a good amount of agility also into it. Since it's a PMI certificate, so people end up preparing well. It has a rigor which is little more than any other generic certificates, but yeah, it's a good starting point. Yeah, if you just want to understand how this is done in a given framework, then there are framework oriented thing. So you have a scaled agile framework, you have a scrum way of working. Their product management, product ownership thing are more telling you in their context what kind of an artifact has to be developed, what kind of a meetings you need to organize, and what kind of approaches you should use in order to do a prioritization and other things. Yeah, so that part is there. But ultimately, you need to know how to do an interview. You need to know what are the possible way of benchmarking. Some content is also comes into that part, but majorly it's more about, okay, what is the whole idea of doing things inside the Scrum? Because the product management role or a business understanding role is too much, I would say, skill oriented, and it is little. It has a tools and technique, but it's a little bit artistic as well, rather than just I know the tools and technique and I will do more and more. So relative to project management, project management also has the artistic part in it, but it has more artistic part in it when it comes to a business analysis as well as a product management space, because your insight, your feeling, your experience, your domain, all those things plays significant role. And because of that, it becomes little difficult to just get things done with the help of a certificate alone. But yeah, a certificate can give you a good starting point. And after that, we have to start thinking in that direction. So maybe one can start with PMI-PBA, the Scrum, or if you are working in a Scrum space, then doing CSPO is a good idea. And then start looking at things from those perspective, start doing need identifications, making presentations, understanding what is happening in your project related to the product management space. If you just analyze the current project or whatever you are doing, you get a lot of insight that, okay, this is why we are moving from here to there. This is why we have added this feature. This is why we are doing this particular thing. So all those things starts becoming more and more clear. Yeah. Unmute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So one basic question I have is for the business analysis skill set. for people who are confused between what should I go for, the PMI certification or the CBAP certification, is there any personal choice for you, Saket?
So we have not explored much CBAP, but I personally, I feel as much I looked into, we thought of doing CBAP and then we dropped the idea. CBAP is little bit more independent business analysis product. They don't attach themselves too much with projects. And the person who are doing business analysis can be done in various contexts. You just need to understand why the market is going in a particular direction, even without having actionable solutioning space. So the place where the business analysis is done in more and more project context, and you want to integrate various project documents and project stages, our understanding is the PMI-PBA does the better job. CBAP, the whole organization is around business analysis. They may have a deeper insight into it that I can sense, and they have a bigger product offering related to business analysis. They cater more than project way of working, doing business analysis, where the business analysis itself could be the activity rather than getting execution and other things in the product or a project space. So yeah. But our market segment was more oriented to project, so we remain stick to PMI-PBA. Yeah.
I understand. Okay. The other question is, in order for me to develop the skill set for strategizing for a business, what are the things I could, certifications or whatever things I could do to prepare myself more towards that?
So see, strategization space is little tricky, because just certification can tell you some technique, but sensing, say for example, user personas. So we know user persona is a technique, but now really creating a particular user persona, how do I observe it? What do I do when I go wrong? How do I interview people? So that is little bit of business goal oriented space. So the strategic level work, the study related to portfolio and business strategies might be useful. Again, the certification or the books and education programs, which are more on portfolio kind of stuffs, which are more focusing on which market segment to go in, when to identify, what kind of an indicator one should use to understand, is it working or not working? So those kind of material, which is more on business portfolio strategy, will be a good starting point. And then so I say product management is a connection between portfolio and execution. So your thought process should be portfolio oriented, but you might be doing in a limited domain. Portfolio might be doing that holistically. They might be looking at multiple product and looking for, okay, which one to go further. But the thought which has portfolio is expected to look into, you might be suggesting your piece of work to the portfolio. Why don't you approve it? So you need to speak in that language. So some amount of portfolio understanding and some amount of execution understanding, and that's a product management is a bridge. So thinking and those kind of programs can help. Yeah.
So the only other question that I think that is left for me is, when you are on the other side of the table, trying to make a decision to hire a product manager, what are you really looking for to hire?
Yeah. So the basic thing which I probably look into when we work into the product management space, and especially we are exploring a lot of ideas on our OGILD space as well, the ability to think from user perspective, ability to connect and sense what your end user might need. So that's the whole thing. So how empathetic approach you have with the end user, how do you approach a problem? So majorly thinking of the complete end-to-end journey of the user, ability to visualize which journeys are profitable, which journeys are not profitable, ability to find out which piece of the solution we can develop and which piece of the solution we can rely on something which is already there in the market, but the user journey is getting complete. So user is starting somewhere and user is ending somewhere. So ability to think that piece is something is the one criteria I will start from. Customer centricity approach. So how much the person can think as a customer, how much sense he has a customer, what kind of a tools he has been using to think like a customer, and how he might be validating his understanding of the customer frequently. So what he has done, or what the person's approach is about knowing the customer, validating that his knowledge about the customer is right, and the techniques to refine the understanding of a customer. So those things as a first piece of I think criteria we might use. Then the second possible criteria could be understanding the overall market situation as well. So say I understand my customer journey, then I also understand which are the product who are satisfying part of the customer journey, how much successful they are, how much failed they are, what kind of a things are giving them success, what kind of a things are not giving them success. So I would say the market awareness. Yeah. So now market awareness, when we apply that market awareness with customer journey, then we find out the feasibility piece of it. Because we might think of the whole customer journey, but we also know that many people have tried to satisfy that customer journey, but it was not making any commercial sense for them and they run away from it. Or there are some implementation challenges related to it. So which piece of the solution exists, which piece of the solution is in the struggle, and what else can be done, maybe coming from a different domain also, but the overall problem remains the same. So market understanding, the market and market positioning, the product offerings, which helps the person to find out feasibility of solving that particular problem. That might be the second thing which might be needed. And the third possible thing, the final possible things, is ability to communicate to the business as well as to the people who are in a solutioning domain. Because if you just speak the business language, somebody may not be able to understand in the solutioning space. So we probably need to convert our language. In language could be way of presentation, language could be the way of writing the feature, the language could be the way of giving feedback. Yeah. So those kind of a language where you have an ability to communicate effectively, external as well as an internal. So external communication effectiveness depends upon how well you know the stakeholders' language. And the internal communication effectiveness depends upon how well you know the solutioning team's language, how well you can communicate in that particular space. So these are the three possible things, in my view, might be useful when we look into a product management space. Again, it's a label could be anything, but that's the kind of, you call it whatever, but that's a role probably might be expectation.
So, sorry, my questions are very ad hoc. They're not very structured because I'm just trying to brainstorm everything with you. My other doubt was, okay, so what is the fine line between, we discuss product owner, product manager. So now when we talk about product manager and a project manager, I'm looking at it, someone like a project manager is involved with the life cycle of the project, whereas for product, it's product managers with the life cycle of a product.
So it depends. It depends upon, do you have both? Because there is a high probability you may have only one of them. Yeah, either you have a project manager, either you have a product manager. Now, why? Because if the product is getting developed as a series of projects, then there is a possibility that you may have an overall direction given, but that first phase of product management or whatever project you are doing is done by the project team with the help of project manager and the other team members. So there is a good possibility that you may only have one of these two roles. Yeah, that's the thing. The organizations which are more organized in a product way, where they say we pick up an initiative and we run it for a while, and that will involve good amount of project management activities also. You know, they will also have a tracking, reporting, and evaluating and milestone reviews and checking that, okay, are we doing the right thing? And they might be doing they might be labeling it as a product managers. So first thing is, there is a high probability that you may only have one of these two rather than having both. That's a one possibility. If you have both, then there is a possibility the product management is more on telling you the requirement, prioritizing your backlog, and working with the stakeholders. And project manager is a primarily integrating multiple teams, getting things done, a kind of a coordination, facilitation, coaching, and problem solving, dependency resolution part of work. Yeah. Whereas a customer handling, customer selling and all taken care by product manager, whereas a project manager is more focusing on execution piece. So that's a possibility. if you are, and there is a good amount of project managers, good number of project managers doing product management job also for their project duration. So like I can see in my experience, we used to do a lot of this business case, prioritization, high level features, working with the stakeholders, where my label was project manager, but I and business analyst used to go to various client sites, present them as is to be's and all those things. And we deliver our phase of a project and then we say, okay, thank you. Yeah, that's the difference. Whereas a product manager, if the organization is working in a product mode, then I can't say thank you. I can remain connected with it. And I may have maybe a different group working on it, but we have a long-term view for that particular product. Yeah. So that's the difference, which is a project way of working and product way of working. But I think there is a good amount of overlap as an activities when the execution is going on. Yeah.
Sorry, I was mute. So my question to you is, so when we take up this specific example that we've discussed before, digitization, I understand what is a project. You're delivering a unique result, right? How do you define a product? And in this digitization, why are they calling this process of digitizing a product by itself?
So it could be a project, it could be a product, both. Now, what is the thing? So product is expected to run for multiple years. It will have its own life cycle. It will have its development phase, maturity phase, support phase, and then finally it will get ended. So assuming if you are doing digitization and you end up creating a website for digitization. Yeah. So if you maintain it as a product, that particular website, then developing that website, later on enhancing with the various versions, supporting it is all part of a product. You have to continue working on it. You can say, okay, you may have a different rigor of work. You can say now this particular website is in a support mode, but I still have to keep adding features to it till the time you decide this website has to be upgraded with a new website. Yeah. So you are connected with the whole life cycle of that particular product. Now, assuming this is done in a project mode, so project mode could be that we need to launch our first website. And after that, the project team is done that, okay, we want to launch a website which helps people to do something online. Okay, so we do as a project, but the project produces a product which hopefully someone else will take care. So there is a possibility maybe the website is launched, 6 months, no support is needed. After that, good amount of changes are needed. You may form another project team and you work with them. Yeah. But there is a possibility that there is a lack of linkage in between. So there was no ownership and there was no focus during that 6 months gap. Maybe organization may have a organization level group taking care of it. You may have something called product management structure, maybe not called product manager, but there are people who support it while it is not actively engaged in project, and then they hire a project team. So it all depends how critical the work is for the organization. So say for a company where this website is more or less remains static once it is delivered, I may want to do it in a project mode. I say, let's run a project and then don't have anyone allocated to it. Yeah, or maybe 1 or 2% allocated to it. If I am making an e-commerce site and that is going to be my main channel for selling, and that is going to be my platform for all the time, then I better work in a product mode. I say there is no end date to it. There will be a continuous working on it, because that's the thing. We will learn, we will change, we will learn, we will change, and we will keep changing all the time, because that's our main platform. Yeah. So they will work more in a product mode, those kind of a website. So if you are making a small website for a company, it might be a project. If you are making a main channel, which is again a website for a company, then it is highly probable it will be a product, because they will be doing everything through that website in future.
Okay. And then if the product manager, when he has to manage the triple constraint, let's say that he's playing the role of both the project manager and the product as a project manager as well, this product manager, how does he manage the triple constraint, and what are the KPIs that he's focusing on?
So we usually, the product management will be more focused on benefit realization. So definitely you don't have a unlimited money. You do focus on it. And the major thing is how well you are understanding customer need and how well the business case is strengthening. So that's the whole idea. So if the business case is becoming poor, how do you change your feature so it becomes again positive? So the whole idea of product management is making it sell. Yeah, and that's the whole idea. Nowadays, even for a project manager also, even the new way of looking at PMP exam is also, we are saying that you need to focus more on value rather than just delivering the scope in a given amount of money. So delivering the scope in a given amount of money may still work in a fixed price project context, which are becoming more and more rare, where because things are evolving and they are dynamic in nature. So depending upon the context, if you have a fixed price kind of a structure, maybe you focus only on cost because requirements are pretty much frozen for you. But if you don't have that, then you focus more on value, that okay, we need to adapt to the cost as well as scope so that we deliver the best possible value at the end.
And my last question is, I know we are almost out of time. What are the reporting artifacts that a product manager would be delivering?
So see, whatever you do, you need to have a mechanism to see how I am doing. Yeah. So whatever report you will produce will be driven by what are your key activities and what are your key goals. So say if I want to responsible for making the right choices for features, my key activities or key reporting would be how we are understanding the customer needs. So maybe if the product is already in the incremental stage where it has already started giving us some feedback, then those feedback will drive good amount of metrics. So you need to identify your leading indicators and you need to talk about how the leading indicators are showing you the result. So it could be the number of people visiting it, number of inquiry we have received, the number of stakeholder, assuming if you are working in the internal space, number of stakeholder liked the features, number of stakeholder asked for the features, what kind of a features were appreciated, what kind of features were not appreciated. So you can, it is more about the feedback and responding to the market need. Less about that we have saved this money and we have delivered these 10 things or 5 things. Yeah, it could be a delivery oriented report, which are more like a project oriented report, but it's more about the responses. So simple thing you can think of that, feedback received, demonstration given to how many features, what kind of a satisfaction level it was, and how you are changing the future priorities based on that. That could be a one way of showing things. Now, if you are running various MVPs and other stuff, then you may have, it depends upon if they are running MVP and we are getting into it, then we have a more concrete data which is coming from end users. So you are saying, how many users like the features, how many people have downloaded the application and those kind of a stuff, which gives you a good KPIs, and you are focusing on modifying those KPIs so that it makes a business case. So we have a business case, we need to realize that case, and how we are progressing towards business case, how we are improving that business case is something is our monitoring. Yeah. And then there could be generic things which are like risks and burn down charts and all, depending upon what type of stakeholders who might want to see. So you may, if you are doing an internal presentation, you definitely want to talk about the risk, constraints, issues, what competitors has done during this particular time. If you are competitor oriented, what kind of a technological opportunities are emerging, you may also want to present that so that company may want to invest more. Yeah. So there could be those kind of transparency related content also, so that everybody knows where we are and how we are doing. And then there is a goal oriented content which tells where we wanted to go and how we are progressing towards that goal. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Saket. I know I could ask you many more questions, but being very respectful of the time.
Perfect. I think it was good interaction, and hopefully it will give you some ideas. We do have few videos on product management, product ownership kind of interview series. Again, that's a typically an interview series. This discussion was a little bit more open. We were not too much focused on a particular question and particular interview. We were more focused on exploring the role and our understanding around it and looking into a project context as well. But some viewer may want to check those interview series also if you are particularly preparing for interview space. So those things may be useful as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Saket. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Nice talking to you, Vandita, again. Yeah.
Thanks. Same here, Saket. Have a good day. Bye.